In the quiet and secluded town of Salem, Massachusetts, at the end of the 17th century, began one of the darkest chapters in American history. This small settlement witnessed events that became known as the Salem Witch Trials. Under the cover of night, in the shadows of old houses and among the forests surrounding the town, rumors of dark magic and witchcraft began to spread. It all started in the winter of 1692, when several girls from Salem began to exhibit strange symptoms. They screamed, flailed their arms, made strange noises, and complained of bites and burns on their bodies. The local residents, consumed by religious fanaticism and fear of unclean forces, quickly concluded that the girls were bewitched. In March 1692, 3 women were arrested, accused of witchcraft: Tituba, a slave from the Caribbean; Sarah Good, a beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman known for her quarrels with neighbors. They became the first victims of the panic that had gripped Salem. During interrogations, Tituba confessed to witchcraft and named others she claimed to have seen at witches' Sabbaths. With each passing day, the number of the accused grew. A special judicial commission was created to handle the cases of suspected witches. This court became known as the Court of Oyer and Terminer and was held in Salem Village. In June 1692, the court handed down its first death sentence. Bridget Bishop was hanged. An atmosphere of fear and suspicion enveloped the entire town. People were afraid of even their closest friends and relatives. One of the most famous victims of the Salem Witch Trials was Rebecca Nurse, an elderly woman known for her piety and kindness. Despite numerous testimonies in her favor, she was sentenced to death. The testimonies of children and teenagers became the basis for accusations. One of the most terrifying episodes was the testimony of Abigail Williams and Ann Putnam, 2 girls who claimed to see the spirits of the accused. Their words, spoken in court, sounded like verdicts, and few doubted their truthfulness. By the summer of 1692, the number of the accused reached its peak. The jails were overcrowded with those suspected of witchcraft. Among them were not only women but also men, such as John Proctor and George Jacobs, who were also sentenced to death. The most dreadful moment came in September 1692, when 19 people were hanged on Gallows Hill. The grim and foreboding hill became the site of the most brutal executions. The people gathered for the executions saw these unfortunate souls go to their deaths with their heads held high, asserting their innocence. The judicial processes were accompanied by torture and cruelty. One of the most gruesome episodes was the death of Giles Corey, who was pressed to death with stones for refusing to plead guilty to witchcraft. His death became a symbol of courage and steadfastness in the face of injustice. By the end of 1692, the trials began to draw increasing doubt. Governor of Massachusetts William Phips dissolved the Court of Oyer and Terminer and established a new Superior Court, which ceased the use of spectral evidence. Gradually, the accusations began to wane. In May 1693, Governor Phips pardoned all remaining prisoners accused of witchcraft. Gradually, the residents of Salem began to realize the terrible mistakes made in the grip of panic and hysteria. But the memories of the dreadful events remained forever etched in the minds of the townspeople. The Salem Witch Trials became a symbol of mass madness and injustice. Over several months, 20 people died, hundreds were accused and imprisoned. These events served as a lesson for future generations, reminding them of the dangers of fear and prejudice. Years after the trials, a process of rehabilitation of the victims began. In 1702, the trials were declared unlawful, and in 1711, the Massachusetts authorities passed a law providing compensation to the families of the victims. However, full forgiveness did not follow, and the memory of the tragedy continued to live on. Today, Salem is known not only as a tourist attraction, but also as a place that serves as a reminder of the importance of justice and tolerance. Every year, thousands of people visit the town to learn about the tragic events and pay tribute to the innocent victims. Museums and memorials in Salem tell the story of the witch trials, allowing visitors to look into the past and understand how easily human society can succumb to panic and hysteria. Here you can see original documents and artifacts related to the trials and feel the atmosphere of that era. Historians and researchers play an important role in preserving the memory of these events. They continue to study and analyze documents, Trying to understand the causes and consequences of these tragic events, their work helps us avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. The Salem Witch Trials remind us of the importance of maintaining common sense and critical thinking. In a world where fear and prejudice can easily take over, it is crucial to remember those who suffered due to recklessness and injustice. Every autumn, events dedicated to the memory of the witch trial victims are held in Salem. Festivals, theatrical performances, and tours allow residents and visitors to immerse themselves in the history and feel the atmosphere of those dark days. The story of the Salem Witch Trials remains one of the most instructive and tragic chapters in American history. It reminds us of how easily fear and ignorance can lead to terrible consequences. It is essential to remember the past to prevent such events from happening again in the future. Let the story of Salem be a warning to us that human life is priceless and should not be destroyed due to prejudice and mass hysteria. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and strive for justice and understanding in our world.